Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another Genshin Impact playthrough session. At the time of recording, we are within the week of Genshin Impact version 4.6 officially releasing. We're kind of in the low down period for content at the moment. I'm going to be focusing on this little cat event that's taking place, I believe, at the Cat's Tail, and just kind of rounding off content before Remoria's region gets released, along with Petrichor, Arlecchino story quests, Arlecchino's character release, and all of the crazy lore regarding her and the Crimson Moon, and like she's like this crazy like Crimson Moon experiment situation. At the time of recording right now, they're dropping an animation for her tonight, so there's just like a lot of hype and buildup right now. And one thing that happened during this patch that kind of went under the radar that a lot of people don't know about: 2 books released during 4.5 that just kind of came out of nowhere, and they seem to have some interesting lore significance to Fontaine and Khaenri'ah respectfully. So if you go to Fontaine, there's this newsstand here, and at this place you can buy a couple of books by this NPC. Now, the 2 books in question is a Fontaine science fiction novel published by the Steambird. It's called Time Trekkers, and it tells of a story of an engineer's travel using a time machine. Now, Petrichor is a town within Fontaine that's releasing next patch that's like housed by a bunch of individuals, a bunch of innovators, researchers, inventors, and they're making like these like larger than life creations. They're making rocket ships, they're making perpetual energy motion devices, they're making calculators and all this other crazy shit. I wonder if there was at some point in history a daydreamer who tried to make a time machine, who tried to become like Istaroth, like the god of time, and use a time machine and go back in time and all that stuff. So this is a very interesting book. I do hope that I have time to be able to focus on reading this. It is a science fiction novel, but I feel like every book in this game just at the very least gives you a lot of hype and excitement for the possibility of things happening. But for this stream, we are going to be reading the fabled Perinheri. 4.5 is about to end within the next week, and I have probably been asked about this book every time I stream, and definitely like multiple times a day on social media, my Discord, YouTube comments of people that want me to read the book, that want my thoughts, they want my opinions, they want like to see me read the book for the first time, because it's heavily rooted in Khaenri'ah. So this book is called Perinheri. It's in 2 parts, and it says, this text is also known as Cleobranto Inomorato. The author of the first edition claims to have based this tale on a legendary story known throughout Khaenri'ah, but there are none left who can verify this. That is a lie. Piero, Dainsleaf, Rhine Daughter, and I'm pretty sure there's some other motherfuckers skulking around that are from Khaenri'ah. Pretty sure someone can verify if we get to see them again. It is an anthological work produced over several generations at this point. So we are collecting both of these books, and we're gonna do some big lore reading, but you know where we're gonna go? We're going home. We're going home to where it all began. All right, I had to do it. We have to find our cozy little nook, and we gotta read our cozy little book. I never read lore. I wait for Arnold to read it. You know what's so funny about that? I just uploaded the Wanderer Archon Quest interlude, where they are fucking essaying during the entire initial part about like the lore and the history of Tatarasuna. And there are so many comments in that video that I uploaded it today. There's so many comments in that video that are like, props to you, Arnold, for like spending half of this video just reading the lore, where like most people would probably like not do that. And there were even a couple of comments that I got where people were like, I specifically didn't read this because I knew you would get to it someday. And I'm like, that's actually a strat. There are so many people that do that, that they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna button mash through everything on my end, and then I'm gonna watch it with Arnold because he'll actually make it easier for me to understand. So that's where we're at right now, and I'm pretty sure some people are here now. They're like, okay, time for me to learn about Perinheri because Arnold's reading it. So here we are. We're at the gates of Khaenri'ah. I still want them to let me in, but we gotta wait a little while here. We're snug. We're nice and cozy and snug. Let me get nice and snug next to my morning flower here. RIP, by the way. Oh, this book's kind of lengthy too. The Time Trekkers. Holy moly. Okay. Perinheri. Oh, okay. Oh my God, chat, you have to understand, right? I looked and the scroll wheel on the right was so fucking tiny. I was like, bro, I'm gonna be here forever. But I guess it was like a bug or a visual glitch or something, because then it fixed itself. I was like, there's no way. There's no shot the book is that long. I almost had a heart attack. I was like, what the hell? Are they're just gonna give us the lore of everything. Oh my God, that actually terrified me. Alrighty, let us read Perinheri, Volume 1. This is a story from very ancient times indeed. It is said that in those days, birds had not yet split into domestic and wild kindreds. In those days, a crimson moon shone down upon the subterranean realm, and not the dark sun of latter days. So that line right there, Dark Sun, aka Eclipse Dynasty, which was the last dynasty of Khaenri'ah. So that tells me before there was a Crimson Moon Dynasty first, and then it became the Eclipse Dynasty, and then everything went to shit. So this is a dynasty before the most recent one. So right now we're in the Crimson Moon. Already thinking of Arlecchino because she's all crimson blood red, and her weapon is called Crimson Moon Semblance, and she's got a bunch of those fucking motifs. So I don't know if she's from the Crimson Dynasty, if she's from the Crimson Moon Dynasty of Khaenri'ah, if she's like a fucking ancient ass Khaenri'an, or like a Khaenri'an experiment or something, or if she's like a moon experiment or whatever. I always think of the moon presence from Bloodborne when I think of like the Crimson Moon, like the blood moon of Breath of the Wild, or like even right now I'm thinking of the moon presence from Bloodborne because it has like that same kind of aesthetic. So yeah, very interesting. Crimson Moon Dynasty. During the kingdom's unique position, things from outside this world were always leaking into it. So a lot of shit was trying to get into the world, like monsters and stuff, like the abyss creatures, I assume. The kingdom's weapons would wipe out the calamities slipping in, but what of all the other objects, such as, say, a child who may have come from some destroyed world? Descenders much? Arlecchino's not a descender, is she? I'm already wondering if this book ties into her at all. One of the sages spoke thusly to the great ruler. "O high lord of the nobles, a child once told me a tale of another world. Once upon a time, there were sea people who believed that the gods came from the sea. Each time they discovered a shipwrecked person, they would treat them with the utmost honor, for they believed the gods would take the form of the shipwreck to investigate the mortal realm." The ruler replied, "I do not perceive your meanings, so do as you please." Naturally, no oceans in the traditional sense lay within the kingdom's borders. Obviously, they're underground. The earliest founders of the kingdom had once seen the majestic silhouettes of the mountains blur under the sun's searing glare, and the rippling reflections of the moonlight falling upon the sea's surface like a scattering of pearls. But at the time the story took place, only outsiders and those few who had left the kingdom on official duties and returned could describe such sights to the ruler. Okay. I assume it means like only like select people who left Khaenri'ah and went to the surface and came back were ever able to like describe like mountain ranges and oceans and stuff like that. So if you were like born into Khaenri'ah, like you probably never left. The ocean and the sea were often used as a metaphor for the space projected by the stars. Okay. In anticipation of the arrival at their kingdom of gods from beyond the so-called ocean, or rather the arrival of beings who could transcend the gods, they founded an organization, an orphanage, to take care of such children. In latter days, the orphans of the kingdom and those who wandered in from the outside were accepted as well. Okay, so this first passage is explaining that during the time of the Crimson Dynasty, there was, I guess, a passage or a leak that allowed beings, creatures, monsters, etc., to come in from beyond Teyvat. I guess somewhere within Khaenri'ah, there was like a rip in space-time or whatever, and these demonic creatures would be able to come in, and they had the technology to kill the monsters, but every so often, or rather, I guess it was prophesized, or I guess it was told that children could come through, aka descenders, like Aether, like the first who came, and like the other ones before Aether, since he's the fourth descender. And so they created an orphanage to house descenders, it sounds like, and then eventually they just became a general orphanage for descenders. descenders and for people who were coming to the nation from other nations, since it was a nation run by only humans. That's what I'm interpreting here. The young Perinheri's first memory was that of being asked by the grown-ups to crawl through a dark corridor. This passage may have been a chimney for winter fires, for it was filled with whole ash, and there was not a single crack in it through which smoke or light could pass through. I don't know if Perinheri was like one of these descender children. Also, I find it interesting that it's an orphanage, and we're literally about to get involved with head of the House of the Hearth, the father of the House of the Hearth, right? The leader of the House of the Hearth, the orphanage of the Fatui. So a lot of parallels already that I'm seeing here. The young Perinheri's first memory was that of being asked by the grown-ups to crawl through a dark corridor. This passage might have been a chimney for winter fires, for it was filled with coal ash, and there was not a single crack in it through which the smoke or light could pass through. As he crawled, he would sometimes stumble in the pitch black darkness. Fortunately, the corridor appeared designed for the passage of children in the first place, so the fall was not very painful. It also lacked any annoying cobwebs. Okay, they kept it clean. That's nice. When Perinheri reached the end at last, the exit had not opened yet. He knocked, only for the grown-ups to coldly ask, "Are you dead?" Well, how was he to reply if he was dead? But the grown-ups did not like this response. They kept asking the same question until he at least shouted, "Yes, I am dead." The adults then asked, "Did you see it then?" What is happening right now? Perhaps it was the fear brought on by the darkness combined with hunger and exhaustion, but Perinheri did indeed see an illusion. The crimson moon, hanging high in the pitch dark night sky, suddenly turned around, revealing itself to be a titanic, horrified eye. The adults opened the door and embraced the soot-covered Perinheri. "You have traversed the fire of two..." Wait a minute. "You have traversed the fire of two worlds within the hearth, and here you are reborn." Wait, isn't that the name of the next patch? Isn't it like the two worlds flames or something like that? Two worlds of flame, the crimson night fades. Okay, really quick. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'm gonna post it on the actual screen, but the editor can probably put the image here right now. But the preview page of the patch on the website, this is the preview page. I don't know if you guys can see it on my screen right now. I think I went full screen with it right here. This is the preview page on the website for version 4.6. And Arlecchino's clearly on the left. You have the kids of the orphanage on the right. But I want to know... Damn! Okay, first off, I didn't mean to zoom in on that. Who is this child? I'm wondering if this child has any... Yeah, I'm sorry. I promise that wasn't intentional. I promise I wasn't zooming in on Arlecchino's cake, okay? I'm wondering who this child is then, because they seem oddly unique. And when you look at like where they are and what they're doing, it seems like they're looking at her through like a portal of some sort too. So I'm just not too sure the significance there. And then you have like the staircase and whatnot on the right side. But yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. First off, it was like the title of the patch, Two Worlds of Flame, and then there's like this random girl. I guess it's better to call them outlanders if they came from another world but they don't have the will to rival a world, because a descender is someone that can rival a world, but you can become a descender. You don't necessarily have to come in from another world to be classified as one. Yeah, I was curious. I was like, who is that girl? And now reading this, they have an orphanage with a bunch of little kids, and the crimson moon and all of that kind of reminds me of Arlecchino already. I'm wondering if those two are connected in some way. Okay, but Perinheri has traversed the fires of two worlds within the hearth, and here you are reborn. What the fuck, man? What am I reading right now? Though the crimson moon set and the dark sun descended into a yet darker dusk. Jesus Christ. So the crimson moon dynasty ended. The eclipse dynasty ended worse than it should have. The transcendental person from beyond who the kingdom orphanage was awaiting never arrived. Oh, okay. So the descender that they were waiting for never showed up, but unusual individuals individuals they had aplenty, and many of those who strode forth from the gates of that orphanage became great knights of the kingdom. Perinheri was, in his time, the leading figure amongst their ranks. That is, unless he were forced to compete with his best friend, Cleobrant. They should have competed for glory and decided who was superior through the amount of honors they crowned themselves in, and in the number of goblets of fine wine downed during the festivities afterwards. But for some reason, their rivalry would take a mortal turn. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. All right, so the Descender never showed up, but a bunch of these extraordinary orphans did. You know what I'm also curious about? You know, like how there's a different cycle period for Teyvat, and we're right now, I think the cycle we're in right now is Khaenri'ah or something like that. I wonder if the Crimson Moon dynasty was just Khaenri'ah during a previous cycle, and then the Eclipse dynasty was the most recent cycle, because Aether and Lumine were summoned here by the Univertas Magnastorum or something like that. Basically, like, it's almost kind of like the Academia of Khaenri'ah. It's in that one artifact set that mentions that's how they were summoned to Khaenri'ah. So I'm wondering if they were just not able to summon Descenders in the previous dynasty. Because I was like, well, why didn't they just summon Descenders like they did with Aether and Lumine? At least that's what the game has told us. Curious how the Crimson Moon dynasty did things compared to the Eclipse dynasty. Actually, I don't really know, because they have, like, they use alchemy, they use mechanical technology as well, but I don't know, like, if that's just like a progressional thing. Like, I don't know if the last dynasty made the mechanical machines, or if the last dynasty was the one that, like, tapped into chemia, like the art of alchemy. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious how sophisticated the Crimson Moon dynasty was compared to the Eclipse. Let's check out volume 2 now. That day, the orphanage welcomed a new member. She was a beautiful young lady from a foreign land who claimed to be a noble princess. Okay. Her nation had been defeated by Deus Ori. Oh my god. Rex Lapis? My boy Morax? And yet the daughter of the priestly line she remained, and would not submit to the new god. And so she drifted, wandering through the gates of their kingdom. Her nation had been defeated by Rex Lapis. The only person I could think of is like the fake news of Khaenri'ah, but we all know what really happened. He's subdued tons of gods though, right? Like Osile and a bunch of nameless gods that we probably don't know about. So I also don't know if she's telling the truth. I can only assume that she is, but we don't know. All right, her nation had been defeated by Deus Ori, and yet the daughter of the priestly line she had remained, so she was still of nobility. She did not wish to submit to his rule as an archon, so she drifted, wandering to the gates of Khaenri'ah. She called herself Angelica. Note 1. Okay, I guess there's cliff notes at the bottom. She called herself Angelica, meaning one who is as a divine emissary. Fair Angelica declared that she would only marry the mightiest knight in all the kingdom. Perinheri cared not a whit, but Cleobrant was smitten by her. I can already tell where this is going. Angelica would often take walks near the Sea of Wells, and there she spoke much of the outside world to Cleobrant. Perinheri would come along out of concern for his friend, and became suspicion was born in him sooner than curiosity. That's a very sophisticated way of saying that. And became suspicion was born in him sooner than curiosity. He would doubt her every word, yet wish that he might see these things one day. Okay, so basically she lived up in the outside world. She's like, I've seen all these things. He's like, yeah, you're a fucking liar. I don't believe you. But it's only because he probably was never in the outside world. He's probably only lived within Khaenri'ah. Angelica's arrival changed Cleobrant altogether. He would become trouble, looking for any provocations upon which to stake a duel against other knights. He would win all these bouts and turn to Angelica to show off his prowess.
Bro is already simping.
Yet all she ever gave him was a cool smile. For what great feat was it for a runner if they raced a tortoise and triumphed? Oh my god, what the hell? Hold on a second. I think I know what's about to happen here. Perinheri was in his time the leading figure amongst their ranks. That is, unless he was forced to compete with his best friend. Is he gonna kill his friend to win over this girl's affection right now? Is that what's about to go down? And she really just said, yeah, I guess you did good in a fight, but you could beat those guys blindfolded, so it's not really impressive. The only way you can prove that you're a good fighter is if you beat the best fighter. And seems like the best fighter is his best friend. Nord, who walked with the dark sprites. Note 2. Alf, the greatest warrior in the Universitas Magnistorum. Alberich, commander of half the knights. And Perinheri, the undefeated. Oh my god, these are... So... I don't know who Nord is, but I'm assuming the dark sprites are like the Rift Hounds. Alf, the greatest warrior in the Khaenri'ah Academia. I think this Alberich commander, isn't that, oh fuck, what's his name? Anfortis? Isn't that Anfortis? Right, because there's a note here that says that Anfortis took the place of Regent after like King Ermin and whatnot. And he was the commander of the Swan Knights. So I wonder if that's him. It just says Alberich, so it's just the last name, so we don't know if that's him or if it's somebody else. I mean, it would have had to have been in the previous dynasty before the most recent one. So I don't know. This could be a different one going further back than even him. So Alberich, commander of half the knights, and Perinheri, the undefeated. Holy shit. Angelica spoke thus of the mightiest figures in the kingdom as she saw them. Okay, so these are like the 4 horsemen of Khaenri'ah. Holy shit, that's actually kind of peak. This is literally like the 4 horsemen. Nord, Alf, Alberich, and Perinheri. And the cataclysm was doomsday. Having fallen head over heels into the troths of love, Cleobrant came to what was an all too reasonable conclusion to him. People might call him a traitor or believe him mad, but even so, he had no wish to hurt Perinheri. As for Perinheri, he believed that his best friend's madness would be cured if only he could kill Angelica. This lady is devious, bro. Did she do this on purpose? So you're telling me Perinheri's like, the only way to save my best friend is to kill the woman he's infatuated with. And Cleobrant's like, the only way I can get this woman who I'm infatuated with to fall in love with me is if I kill my best friend. And she's sitting there like, she has to know what she's doing. She has to know something's going on. In the midst of that most merciless of pursuits, the 3 left the kingdom's borders. At that very moment, Cleobrant clutched his face, and the words escaped his mouth grew gradually more like a howling of a wild beast. The witch, Angelica, thus explained? Why did they just so casually say that? What do you mean, the witch? Like, the witch? Are you describing her, or is that like, is she an actual witch? The witch Angelica explained thus: Cleobrant is a descendant of those who forsook their god and came to the kingdom. This is why the kingdom's obstinately pure blood aristocracy persists. This is the price of betraying your own god. As for Hugh, is he cursed for doing that? For betraying his god? As for you, Perinheri, you are one who drifted here. Thus, you bear no such curse. You may not have the nobility to shoulder a world, but you too have your own destiny. And as for me, I betrayed no one, not for a moment, until my god died. So I too bear this curse not. But you now see who I truly am, yes? So I knew there was a curse placed on non-purebloods, but I didn't know that you got cursed also if you chose to forsake your god to go to Khaenri'ah. I don't know if they explained that or if I just didn't interpret it that way. So Cleobrant was cursed. So did he just become like a hilly troll in that moment? Perinheri drifted to Khaenri'ah, so he didn't like actively choose to forsake wherever he came from. And then Angelica was always loyal and faithful to her god until her god died. So then at that point, it's like, well, I'm able to go wherever else because I didn't make that choice either. And she basically confirms that he's not a descender. She says, you may not have the nobility to shoulder a world, aka you may not be a descender, but you too have your own destiny. The sun rose over the horizon at that moment, and Perinheri's blade slipped from his fingers. Exhausted from the night-long battle, covering his forehead with the back of his hand, he looked upon the sun for the first time. And when he glanced back at Angelica, he saw that she was neither a beautiful woman from Liyue nor a wicked witch. I am freedom, that which has broken free of fate. This is what Cleobrant sought in agony, but that which is now yours for the taking. There is nothing before Perinheri, only vast, empty land. Is that Istaroth? I am freedom? Mondstadt? Venti? Hello? The god of freedom? I am freedom, that which has broken free of fate. That has to be Istaroth, right? She is literally the moment. She is every moment. Why the hell did she do this? Did she want Perinheri to leave Khaenri'ah? That's what this Angelica's goal was. What the hell is this, bro? So I assume he killed Cleobrand after he turned into a monster, right? He said like the night before he was covering his head, his forehead, exhausted from the night-long battle. That fucking sucks, man. There was nothing before Perinheri, only vast, empty land. So Perinheri, not a descender, got caught up with a god of some sort, killed his best friend because his best friend would have killed him if over this woman. And she's like, I'm free. And then what? She just leaves and Perinheri's on the surface. He's exploring the world, I'm assuming. He's gonna go on his own journey, I guess. A legendary story known throughout Khaenri'ah. All right, so there were some note annotations above. Note 1. Note that the ancient people of Liyue did not use such names. Now that I consider it, her name may have been Lady Miaoyan, Lady of Wondrous Sound, or Servant of Tianwang. Wait, so her name was a lie too? She gave a name that doesn't associate with what names would be for people of Liyue. Probably of translation? Well, if she wasn't who she said she was, she just gave like a fake name. Note 2. The Black Wolves of the first edition. Archaeological work on Khaenri'ah indicates that this must have been a type of war beast created using alchemy. Yep. Hello, Rhine daughter. Alchemy and the Beastmaster Knights were a mainstay during the Crimson... Oh, it confirms it right here. Okay. Alchemy and Beastmaster Knights were a mainstay during the Crimson Moon Dynasty, but interest in mechanical engineering during the Eclipse Dynasty would cause it to fall behind. Okay. So Khaenri'ah was during the Crimson Moon Dynasty. So alchemy was during Crimson Moon Dynasty. And then the mechanical, like ruin guards, ruin graders, ruin golems, etc., were during the most recent, like the last dynasty of Khaenri'ah. Okay. So that means, well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that Rhine daughter is from the Crimson Moon Dynasty. She could have been around during the Eclipse Dynasty and just learned alchemy. It's just saying like that was like what they mainly focused on back in the day was alchemy. Why did they stop doing Khaenri'ah? I mean, have you seen the Rift Hounds? Have you seen creatures like Durin and probably Alenus and all of that? I'm glad they did. I mean, we did get Albedo out of it, so I can't be too mad about that. But we also got Susbedo. Special thanks. Special thanks go to, okay, so the sources. Mr. Denon's archaeological studies into Khaenri'ah, which inspired this work, first edition. Mr. Jean Vigake's continued writing and refinement, which have given this story its ending, second edition. Whoa, Carl Ingold. A combination of Carl Ingold's records from investigations into an abandoned city, 13th edition. Mr. Karasawa's assistance in natural history and miscellaneous studies. Aren't these names from the Narcissenkreuz Institute? I swear to God, I've seen these names before. And Mr. Yun's notes on Liyue culture, 15th edition. All right, citing your sources. We love to see it. A lot of those Narcissenkreuz crumbs too are coming back through. I wonder if this is at all gonna tie in to the Crimson Moon, like all of the Crimson Moon like references and inferences that we're getting from Arlecchino. She also commands an orphanage in the present, and I guess it's kind of interesting too because that was an orphanage of Khaenri'ah, and the Fatui run an orphanage, and the head of the Fatui is a Khaenri'an, right? Piero is the director. So I just feel like there's too many connections there for it not to like mean something. Maybe Arlecchino was one of these super extraordinary orphans, but like she also seems to be very otherworldly with her powers. Like she's got wings and she's got like her like hilly churl demonic arms and stuff like that. So I feel like maybe she could be an experiment of some sort, or like a merging between like human and like, I don't know, like they also mentioned like that floating Crimson Moon eye. So is she connected to the Crimson Moon situation thing? Or maybe she's like the avatar of the Crimson Moon. I don't know. Yeah, and she glitches out too. That's also like another interesting thing. Wow, that was a very, very compelling read. I know it's just like a story, but like I think Perinheri actually existed. There's no fucking shot that he didn't. Whatever happened to him afterwards, I have no idea. I don't know if he became a descender in the end, right? Because Rene de Petrichor basically confirmed like he was trying to become a descender. So you can level up your will to shoulder that of a world and become a descender. Check the NPC girl name next to the book stand. The big thing too for me is that Arlecchino's signature weapon is literally called Crimson Moon Moon semblance. I can't wait, dude. If her story quest doesn't crack open everything about her, I hope her character lore reading and that weapon give us the rest of the information we need, because I'm getting both of those things. And there's no way this isn't her, is it? She's got the same, it's spelled a little differently. I have my own criteria for good and bad books. For example, I prefer our local creative style. I mean, Inazuman light novels do feature detectives and reasoning too, but they all seem to have some sort of inexplicable sentimentality. The case themselves are pretty to look at, but why do they have to add all this romance? Damn, not a fan of sappy romance. I have my reservations about that, so it would seem that we're opposed in this issue. It's all right. Aesthetics are subjective in the end, and I don't intend to persuade you. May we each be equally nourished by the bounty of this land. Hold on, let me just do a little something over here real quick, okay? Let me just I mean, I'm here. I'm chilling. Hello, ma'am. You come to this book stand often? Get me out of here. This lady's gonna get me killed, I swear to God. Very interesting lore reading. That is freaky as hell that that's her name, and she's at the exact book stand where we found that book. Holy moly, dude. Yeah, that was a fantastic read. That was very interesting. Even if the book is like whatever, even if the book is like random and not that like serious to take into consideration, the crumbs of what we did get out of it from Khaenri'ah's perspective, right? The Crimson Moon Dynasty, the 4 horsemen of Khaenri'ah, right? Nord, Alberich, Alf, Perinheri. I do think these are historical figures, especially with a lot of the Norse mythology that's tied with Khaenri'ah's lore at present. We know that alchemy preceded the Crimson Dynasty, and then the mechanical engineering preceded the Eclipse Dynasty. I think there's like a lot of really cool things that we can infer and at least take as factual outside of the story itself. I don't know if that was Istara, and if it was, if her goal was mainly to just get Perinheri to like leave and like venture off into the outside world outside of Khaenri'ah, but like it's very interesting to just think about, especially given everything that we know, or rather that we don't know about her. But she says, I am freedom, and the first thing I think of is Mondstadt, the winds of freedom, Venti, the fact that Venti probably was created from Istaroth and everything else between, you know, if he's not Istaroth himself, you know, as like an alias or whatever. I don't know. Very interesting. I need to see this animated short tonight. I'm watching the animated short tonight. I'm gonna react to it tonight. It's gonna be uploaded tonight, and I doubt it's gonna give us the answers. It's literally probably just gonna tease us for the story quest more than anything. I still don't know what Arlecchino is. She's like some Crimson Moon creature person thing from beyond the stars. Fremine's got imaginary friends that always have his back. Linny is about to become the next Knave, and Lynette is just like dealing with all this trauma. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what the hell is gonna happen after this. I need to get Arlecchino to Friendship 6 as soon as possible so we can read her lore and read her weapon and truly find out what she knows. She's also going to talk about the other Harbingers, so that's going to be really exciting. Hopefully she talks about the other ones. I need to change my name back. The meme is over. I need to make sure I don't have Cleobrand. Bro was actually simping. Bro was like, I will kill my best friend for the woman of my dreams. Could not be me, bro. Yeah, this was super exciting. I'm so excited to see what happens next. I think the next big thing that we're going to look forward to today, or tonight rather, again, is the Arlecchino animated short. It will be uploaded as soon as it comes out, as soon as I record my reaction and thoughts for it. So that'll be uploaded tonight. And yeah, at this point, I'll give it maybe like 1 to 2 days before I do Arlecchino's quests. And that's a courtesy to you guys. I want you guys to play through it before I do. But like, I can't go any longer than that. Like 1 or 2 days at most, but then I have to get to the quest. So I'm gonna give like a 2-day grace period so you guys can watch the stream and be here when I go through it. But I am so excited to check out all this information. The Khaenri'ah lore was peak. I wonder if Perinheri is going to be a factor, and I'm excited to learn more about all of those other bits of details regarding the Crimson Moon Dynasty, the Eclipse Dynasty, and everything else. Like, Khaenri'ah is eventually going to get here, but I love how they're like teasing everything. We need that Dainsleif Archon quest interlude at this point. We have 2 patches left, I think, until Natlin, so it's got to happen in 4.7 or 4.8. I don't know if Farina Karina's gonna get a second story quest and she's no longer the Archon, but only time will tell. But this was a fantastic read nonetheless.